I'm on attempt number 4. It is 3:37 a.m. I keep fucking up this recording in so many fucking ways. This time I'm not fucking it up. I have a Sharpie. I drew out diagrams. I'm well prepared. I have my thoughts all put together, and I'm not going to ramble for 2 hours this time. And I'm not going to fuck up hitting the record button either. So, all you need to understand is this is about skill-based matchmaking. Now, to preface things, I don't think Enders is being intentionally malicious when he says skill-based matchmaking is bad or any of the things that he's saying. I think that there are two big issues currently going on between the community for Delta Force and gaming as a whole and developers, especially when we are in the West and we speak English primarily, and certain words mean certain things to us as gamers, and to somebody else they might not mean the same thing. So, to explain, to preface this statement here, I shouldn't have thrown the clipboard down because I need it. Um, Skill-based matchmaking is not bad. So, fundamentally, it is not that bad. So, the reason that I'm being so forgiving in this case is because I think that this is statements being made by people purely out of ignorance and not knowing better and not having the background that I have to understand the subject matter to the extent where they should be making these claims so boldly and profoundly. And I'm going to explain how these systems worked in the past and how they work currently. All you need to understand is that, going into this explanation, skill-based matchmaking has been around in matchmaking services in Call of Duty specifically since Modern Warfare 1 all the way back in 2007, and likely was in games like Halo 2 and games before then, much earlier, as far back as like 2004 and stuff like that. Skill base is something that is not a new thing. Now, skill based matchmaking, as we refer to it now, is a very modern thing. And has entered the modern average person's lexicon and their understanding entirely for the wrong reasons. It's entirely games like Call of Duty's fault, where monetization is their priority and gamers' fun is not. Talking to anybody who understands these systems, and especially the developers, they often are like, oh, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, and we're going to do it right, and this is how it should be. Call of Duty's developers have confirmed over and over again, hey, yes, skill-based matchmaking was in these games for years, and it's not just in the ranked mode for the last time. Anyways, um, to explain this, the average person or the end user, in this case, the average gamer, like Enders, whose video we're going to be discussing, it is not necessarily malicious, the things they say. It is a fundamental lack of understanding. The end user does not need to know everything about the thing they're using to be able to enjoy and use that thing. If you drive a car, is it helpful to be able to change your own oil and replace a tire when one blows out? Yes. Is it necessary? No. You have people who know those things who can do it for you. They do it for a fee usually. That's their job. You have your job. You just use the thing. That's how it works. It's how things have worked for years. It's nothing new in cars. It's nothing new in video games. In this case, I am that guy who knows about the development side, the networking side, the software side. I understand these things, and I'm going to explain these things to you today so that you can understand, before we go into this video, why he's wrong and why you shouldn't just blanket skill-based is bad. It's not. How it is implemented into the game is what's bad. And the developers are, as far as I can see, doing a very good job of that. And we'll get into these things in a bit. For now, though, this clipboard comes in handy. I need to make sure my headset doesn't die real quick. So one sec. If I don't put audio through it, it turns off and on. So I got to do it myself. So here's a fancy dancy chart. Skill-based matchmaking and how it affects the hierarchy of your connections to these games. So I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to point to some things. So in the hierarchy, the first and most important thing is ping. That's where the term ping is king comes from. It is the most important thing. The next most important thing that goes hand in hand with ping is server capacity. Now, server capacity is when, let's say, for example, okay, here's a good example. I have one pack of cigarettes in my hand, right? This is the server. If you can hear it, some space in here. You know, a little bit of space in there. Hey, we could fit another person in there. This is you joining the server. Oh, it's kind of filled up now a little bit, right? Let's try to fit one more person in there. Oh, they can't fit in, right? Okay, well, this is another server. Oh, it's unopened. It's, you know, it's full. My pack of McDonald's fries. I'm not actually going to put the lighter in here, but this is the next available server that isn't full. That's where that next guy goes. So, that's how capacity works. If the server is full, you'll go to the next one. And to explain that, I have another chart. So in this chart, we can very clearly see and understand server capacity. So, server 1 is going to be your primary server. Your closest server, usually it'll be 32, so like 30 to 40 milliseconds of ping. 32 is what I wrote down here. Tends to be the most common. So you are the end user. You're this little laptop down here. You're not probably playing on a laptop. Probably using a desktop if you know what you're doing. But if server 1 is full, you'll get put to server 2, the second closest server. And that second closest server is going to have a little bit higher ping. It's a little further away from you, but it's the second priority. It's less full. You'll connect to it. That's where you're going to go. 46 is probably roughly about what you're going to get. Now, if you are an East Coast end user like I am, and both of these are either full or there's not enough players and you're playing at a weird time of day, you're going to connect to Europe next. Europe servers are going to be 120 plus. That's where that starts coming into play. Now, to put this in a good way that you can understand it, if I took this clipboard and that wall over there to my right is server 1, if I fucking hurl this clipboard at that wall, it's going to take a very small amount of time. That's my first priority. That's server 1. Now let's say I put 1,001 holes in that wall and that wall is gone. There's no more wall there. And there's too much clipboard smashed into that wall and another one isn't going to fit. I turn this way at my window and I hurl my clipboard out the window and I smack it into the cars outside and I blast through the windshield. That's a little further away. It's going to take a little bit longer. That's server 2. Server 3 is if I open my door over there and I hurl this clipboard out and it goes out all the way through the living room and out the balcony and it goes way out there and it hits a tree nearby. That's Europe. That's going to take a lot longer than it took to hit that wall or to hit the cars outside. It's, that's how that works. That's how the servers work. And that's what that bottom bracket is. There's a tertiary set of matchmaking criteria. That's how that works. The primary thing is ping. What's closest to you? Is it full? If it is full, put you to the next one. The next thing is locations, time of day, skill-based matchmaking. If you're in East Coast, Europe is closer than if you're in the Midwest. So if you're in the Midwest and your next best thing for server choice 3 by that example is going to be Europe, well, you're screwed. That's really far away. That's going to be way worse. So it's going to impact you a little bit more severely. Now, depending on where you weight those things, how important those are in the game's matchmaking systems, that's where that comes into play. So to be clear, skill-based matchmaking is not bad. Not inherently, nor is ranked versus unranked gameplay. To be clear, that is not a problem. But it is a problem if it's done wrong, and it is a problem that certain people mislead, whether knowingly or unknowingly, whether it's malicious intent or just pure ignorance. If you make statements as fact, that is also equally a problem. And let's get into Ender's video.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you did read that title, right?
I forgot. I fucked it up. My bad. Fixed it. And fuck it up entirely this time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you did read that title right. You are not hallucinating, and the thumbnail is correct. Delta Force has skill-based matchmaking, MMR matchmaking, whatever you want to call it, and it needs to be removed immediately.
So as I just explained, 1, no it doesn't. and two, it's been in games for like the last 20 years. The reason I stopped it here before he continues further into the video is I want to explain a couple of things about what you can see on screen right now. So the first thing, and I'm going to zoom in here. All right, you can't really see it, but when I zoomed in here, the first thing that you need to be paying attention to is where it says delay 32 milliseconds. That is, there's a good reason why on this clipboard that I just threw down, I referenced 32 milliseconds. He's connected to his closest server. You can't really see it back here, but it says packet loss. That's, in Call of Duty, that'd be like your packet bursts when those happen. So it's a good thing that this game by default leaves those things perfectly visible at all times. So you can tell going from game to game to game when certain factors of that matchmaking are impacting you and when certain things are going on. All you need to understand is you need to pay attention to his delay number in the top right, and then the next thing is that kill feed directly down below. So when he makes claims, oh, you don't see people popping off and high skill players aren't around and this, that, and the other, it's not true, and he very clearly demonstrates it's not true in his video here, where he very clearly demonstrates that, yeah, actually, you do see this happen quite often. In fact, fairly regularly. People pop off, and the issues are not what you claimed them to be. Carrying on, I'm going to let a lot more of this video go before I make comments, but just know that in my first a couple of attempts, I would stop like every 10 to 20 seconds to explain fundamental theories and say, oh, you're wrong again, this is how this works. I don't want to sound, like a broken record and say, no, this is how that works. No, again, this is how that works. No, again, this is how that works. He makes a lot of statements as facts. I don't believe that he's making these statements as if they're facts because he has any malicious intent. I think it's purely he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he believes it as an end user to be true based on a lot of myths and shit that have been put out that just aren't true. But anyway, back to what we're talking about. I'm on the wrong thing again. I really need to stop doing that.
And you will see why when I explain it further in this video, because the way it works is just, honestly, downright nonsensical. And what is so funny about this is on my first impressions video of Delta Force, the first impressions of the release at least, I said, well, lobbies, I just thought maybe we're getting progressive.
Let me go back 2 more times. So, to be clear, by the way, this is not the first time Delta Force has been available to Western players. To explain this, there was a open beta that we're in now, and then there was closed beta, which was back in August. That's what that's referencing.
And what is so funny about this is on my first impressions video of Delta Force, the first impressions of the release at least, I said, well, I noticed my matches are getting progressively harder, but, maybe it was just lobby variation. Sometimes in Battlefield games, you have good lobbies and bad lobbies and harder lobbies and easier lobbies. I just thought maybe there's just a bunch of gamers on because the game is just out, and obviously I don't really know the maps very well, so maybe I'm just playing like ass and other people are beaming me. That's what I thought, at least, until I saw this article from...
Okay, to be clear, once again, yes, that's exactly what was happening, and there's a variety of reasons that I cite when I say this, but just understand that that's exactly what was happening. One of the things that he does not get into in this video, I don't know why, maybe he just doesn't know about it, but there are bots in Delta Force right now. I personally, if we're talking about anything that needs to get removed, it's bots. The bots have to go. You have 50,000 active players on average on the low end right now, and over 100K on the high end for concurrent. That's just on Steam, by the way. So get rid of the bots. They don't need to be here right now. They shouldn't be here right now. If it's actually preventing the game from matchmaking players, like if North American players are not the primary people and it's Europe, I don't have that data to explain things right now, but if that is the case and bots are needed, fine, leave the bots in. But just know, bots know where you are on the map at all times. If you actively follow along with the largest group of players and you all go down the same path and you're all heading to the objective using the same route and you're not super spread out, you're like, let's say that you have this much space, right? and your team uses that much of the space with very few outliers out here. The bots are going to focus this area way more than this area. So there's a lot of things that factor in. And yes, I do think there's a certain extent that he doesn't know the maps, and there's not enough maps in the game right now, so the variety isn't really there. So the more you play, the more bored you're going to get, because you're going to have relatively similar games every single time, where the primary people are going to go here, and then the outlier people are going to go here, and then you'll have your snipers back here fighting the snipers up here, and that's how matches generally go. And the matches will either go, oh, we're absolutely steamrolling through the objectives, or we're getting really blocked up on objective 2 or 3. It happens. But to blame skill-based matchmaking is just inherently wrong. To say that, oh, the game is boring, and if skill-based matchmaking is to blame, and everything feels the same match to match, it's very clearly not true. And I can draw this out as a diagram real quick, because this is the one diagram that I forgot to draw earlier, and it's important now. But to understand, in these lobbies, Team A, Team B, have this. There are um, three different um, things that happen on leaderboards with properly implemented skill-based matchmaking. You'll have the top of the leaderboard. Just pretend this is the leaderboard, Team A, Team B. You've got your high skill players up here in the top. Those guys are very good. They're consistently doing things like assists. They're getting high kills. They're being on the objective a lot more. They are your high-skilled players. Then you have your middle of the road bracket here. Decently decent skill. These are players who are good, but maybe they're sniping, so they're getting less kills. They're not really on the objective. They're getting lower score. Maybe they're still helping the team out a decent bit. Maybe they're making a little bit of an impact to keep some of the heat off. Maybe these are guys who are primarily like vehicle players who are driving around to take out fire, and they're just trying to, be support players. But maybe they're just okay. They're getting a couple of kills, but they're also dying a decent bit. But they're cannon fodder players. They're doing good as they can, but they're not great. Then you have your low skill. And I also put late, because late join players are going to have a lower skill. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, but they join pretty late, so maybe they're, not as heavily impactful to the match. That happens sometimes. But what you need to understand is that that's how matches tend to go. In games like Delta Force, where there's big lobbies, 32 players per team, or games like BattleBit, where there are 128 players in a lobby, and it's crazy. But that's how that goes when matchmaking is done properly. And again, if a game, and I'm hoping Delta Force sticks to their promise, if Delta Force does this the way it used to be in games and should still be, then we will continue to see that for the rest of time. And to make this clear, I've been following this game since way back when it was still called Delta Force Hawk Ops, and it was understood that maybe it would be a paid game, and then that changed, and the name changed, and a lot of things changed up until the closed beta, and it doesn't really matter. Point is I followed the Chinese version as well as the Western version. And they're in Season 2 right now. I'm not super stoked about the things that are coming in Season 2 here. I think it's just too many cosmetics, not enough gameplay and map changes, but it's fine, whatever. That's how games go. But all you need to understand is that I know a lot about this game, and I follow it way more closely than I really should. I have an unhealthy obsession with the Delta Force franchise. It's one of my favorite game franchises of all time. I think it's the best. So good. But that's all that really matters. Just know that I say these things because I love this franchise, and I'm sick of people making shit up and not knowing what they're talking about. But that's how that works.
From November 29th, 2024.
Oh, more importantly, I agree with this developer, and I just realized I didn't switch it back. I've had that issue a couple times. I'm glad I caught it.
which is an interview with one of the main people behind Delta Force, stating that, quote, Delta Force will have a well-built skill-based matchmaking system.
I must get the clipboard. I must tap the sign. That's what he's talking about. That's what the developer's talking about. It's going to have this, the classic matchmaking system. Not EOMM, which is what COD has nowadays.
And apparently, skill-based matchmaking is essential for fun.
It is.
So we certainly have a ton to unpack in this video.
When you know what it's supposed to be doing.
Ladies.
It does help low skill and mid skill players.
And gentlemen,
it does not hurt high skill players. I should say that.
If you plan on following Delta Force, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I already put out a settings guide, and I plan on putting out many, many more instructional videos, such as how to build weapons, individual weapon builds, all that sort of thing. So hit the like button, sub to the channel, and come by the Twitch streams. I stream every single day, and recently I've been putting in like 8-hour streams.
One thing real quick. I do advise that you go watch his streams, because you'll see what I'm talking about. If he's still playing Delta Force, you will see what I'm talking about. Again, remember, I pointed out the ping, I pointed out the kill feeds. If you watch his streams, I watched one of his for a couple hours while I was doing some stuff, you'll notice, yeah, it's exactly what I said. The ping is fairly consistent. He'll have like those one-offs where he ends up in Europe every once in a while, when that's just how it works. There are a lot of players, there's a lot of bots, but for the most part, popping off, those like 4 or 5, maybe a quad feed or more is way more impactful in a game like Call of Duty, where it's a 6v6 or a 10v10, versus, a game like Battlefield or Delta Force or BattleBit, where it's 32, 64 players. That's way more impactful to take out 4 players in a 6v6 than it is to take out 4 players in a 32v32 or a 128 versus, not a 128 versus, holy shit, that'd be crazy. Or a 64v64. So, but watch his streams. Don't take my word for it. Watch him. See that I'm talking about this and I'm telling the truth. Again, I think he's blaming the wrong thing. I think it's a not knowing about the bots issue, and I think it's he doesn't know about how these systems actually work. I would love to see if he knows how that chart actually comes to be and how that all works and the weighting system, but where you put certain things in that hierarchy impacts things. And before we continue, actually, ranked modes, actual working ranked modes, will put skill-based matchmaking more like up here. Sure, you're going to match with people, it'll weight it the same as ping. Your ping is on the same impact level. The kilogram of feathers ping versus the kilogram of bricks matchmaking skill. That's ranked. And before we get any further into this video, because this is a foreign company, they use the word ranked in Delta Force different than a Western player understands it. That's all you need to know.
So what is the deal with skill-based matchmaking in Delta?
I fucked things up. I'll splice that in post.
Force. First of all, I just want to state up front, this is not an opinion. This is fact, okay? I know...
Oh, before we continue, again, yes, it is opinion. You don't know what you're talking about. I showed you don't know what you're talking about. I demonstrated how it actually works and how all these things operate.
Some people are going to try to debate this in the comment section, try to say, oh...
Okay, by the way, once again, right there, triple kill, he dies, but he got a triple kill. Like I said, in Call of Duty, that's very impactful. In a game like Battlefield, no, it isn't.
Oh, well,
you do pop off.
Are you really sure it exists? I'm absolutely 100% positive, because the developers of Delta Force confirmed that they have, quote, MMR matchmaking to me personally, and if you want to look at something that confirms it for everyone else, there's an article from Video Gamer interviewing one of the main Delta Force developers saying that Delta Force will have a well-built skill-based matchmaking system.
Once again, I think this is an issue of lost in translation. You're talking about one thing, they're talking about something different. You are misinterpreting what's being said, and you're taking it and running with your misinterpretation.
So that is public confirmation of the system being in the game.
Also, once again, like I said, skill-based matchmaking is not inherently bad. your interpretation of what it is and how it works is what's wrong.
Another very important detail is you will notice when playing Delta Force, you can select between ranked and unranked modes. Now, a lot of people see the ranked game mode and they assume, oh, well, that's ranked. You must be being put against better players. So, of course, skill-based matchmaking is going to be in that. But what they don't understand is skill-based matchmaking is also in the unranked mode. But what's even crazier, ladies and gentlemen, and sit down for this, ranked is useless. It does absolutely nothing because ranked and unranked players get queued into the same lobbies.
Okay, I waited a really long time for him to finish because I don't want to keep pausing it over and over again. Yes, he is right. Once again, this is where that translation issue comes into play. They call it ranked. It's not ranked. It's like a secondary prestiging system where you earn very small rewards as you go. And he even acknowledges these are small rewards. And later on, he even acknowledges, like, oh, I don't think it's that big of a deal, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, if you really know and understand that it is not ranked, and that it doesn't mean what it says it means, because you misinterpreted it and they translated it a little weirdly, turn it off. There's no benefit to turning it off. There's only benefit to turning it on. You gain points, and it's just a second leveling system. They call it rank. This is the same kind of rank as the military ranks. I left active service in the Army as a specialist, but I started as a private with, nothing, a PV1. As you progress and you learn more things and you stay in longer, your rank goes up. Your performance impacts that rank. If I show to my sergeant and my company commander, I'm a really good guy, I can handle a lot of responsibility, I can become a sergeant faster, and I'll be put forward to that selection process sooner than if I do nothing and I just am a total shitbag. Same deal here. If you perform really well in matches, you get a lot of XP, your rank there will go up. They use rank in a different way than you interpret their meaning. It's a translation issue. It's not malign intent on their part. You just do not understand what they're saying, and they do not understand what you're saying. It's just a translation issue.
And I have personally tested this and confirmed it with my viewers. My viewers Q-sniped me while I was...
Your viewers are also Western players, so to them, they have a certain understanding of what it means. The developers have a certain understanding of what it means. You're going to gloss over all of this because, once again, I don't think it's malice. I think you just don't know better.
Queuing ranked, and
it's not I think you don't know better. I can tell you don't know better because how many people realistically, watching me or watching anybody else, know and understand what I just described on those charts? I don't think very many. Now, some of you maybe, but not most of you. I don't think most people know that.
They had ranked unchecked, and they got put in my games. So, as of right now, there is absolutely zero difference between unranked and ranked. The only difference that is, again, meaningless, is you can earn small rewards for having ranked checked. Other than that, it really just doesn't do anything, because skill-based matchmaking is present in every single game mode. This is a fundamental violation of the player base. Under no circumstances...
Real quick, by the way, that is malicious. You are saying it's bad, but you don't know better. You don't understand it. You don't know why it's called ranked. Saying it is a violation is being intentionally deceptive. You need to stop doing that. Do not speak with authority on things you don't get. That's all I'm saying.
Should skill-based matchmaking be anywhere near the unranked mode in the game? I have absolutely no problem with there being skill-based matchmaking in the ranked mode.
So once again, to clear this up, there is no ranked mode. That is an entire him misunderstanding what they put in the game. It's a translation issue. They didn't mean ranked as in ranked games versus unranked games. They mean, do you gain rank prestige rather than ranked versus unranked. They're not separate. They're the same thing. It's just a, hey, here's like a free battle pass, effectively, is what it is. It's like a secondary battle pass. Mind you, this company primarily is the guys who made like PUBG Mobile. These are a mobile game developer primarily. Okay, that's what you need to understand. These are weird systems to US players, but these are perfectly normal things in the mobile market and to this company from China. Okay? That's all you need to understand. But you're wrong.
Obviously, because if you're queuing ranked, you're assuming you're going to be placed against higher skill level individuals, and ranked counts for something. You want to rank up, you want to get better, all that sort of thing, right? But here's the problem with skill-based matchmaking being in Delta Force, and I just want to say this disclaimer before we get any further into the video. I bet some of you guys watching this video are going, oh, well, Anders just doesn't like skill-based matchmaking because he can't farm noobs as hard. Absolute and utter horse shit. Let me just say that right up front, okay? BS.
And this is another thing. I also agree. Yes, the people saying, "Oh, you just don't like skill based because you want to shit on new players or weaker level players." No, most high skill players aren't saying that. To bring up the chart, to point something out on the lobby chart. I'm here. I'm like right here, right below that high skill line. I performed well, above average, but I'm not pro level competitive. My stuff is more PvE. I'm more of a Call of Duty Zombies and you know PvE or PvPvE more so than PvP. I'm good, not great, and I'll admit that. But I also know that the system works, and I understand how it works, and I know why it doesn't need to get removed. And it's also been around for so long that most people have interacted with this kind of matchmaking without ever noticing. Because you wouldn't notice. If it's being done right, like that, you will not notice. And that's an issue with old games having persistent lobbies versus nowadays it being very uncommon for you to stay as a group between matches. And that change has really heavily impacted the understanding. Because you're not matching with the same players again and again and again, so you're not seeing the same players every game, so your skill in that lobby changes more fluctuating as games go. So one game you'll be really good, and the next game you really won't be, or maybe you'll have a bunch of games where you're middle of the road. That's how you know it's working. But it didn't used to be like that, and that's why it's less noticeable then, more noticeable now.
Total garbage. Just a couple days ago, I posted myself playing in a tournament against basically like 5 retired COD professional world champions, okay? And I don't care that it was in Delta Force. The fact of the matter is, I don't have a problem playing against better players. I just don't. Played tournaments in many, many games, including Delta Force, Battlefield, Gundam Evolution.
Oh, also, man, Gundam Evolution was a fucking mistake. While that gets mentioned.
Even in Counter-Strike back in the day. So I'm a competitive player, right? I'm fine with that. However, my issue with skill-based matchmaking is it causes a lot of problems, okay? And for me, there's some moral problems. There's some ideological problems with there being skill-based matchmaking in a casual shooter such as Delta Force or such as in Battlefield, for instance. First of all, like I said, it's completely incompatible with the idea of Battlefield. Battlefield is supposed to have a bunch of game variation.
Real quick, before he gets into this, he is about to try to make a case between casual games and competitive games. What you need to understand is, this is an opinion-based statement. Everything he says in this video pretty much is either an opinion or it's just statements of facts that are just fundamental misinterpretations of how things work. This is a case where it's literally just him trying to push an opinion as fact. The best citation of this, I wish I had my GameCube in here so I could hold it up. Melee, Smash Brothers Melee, is a Nintendo fighting game, right? Nintendo calls it a party game. There is a hardcore competitive fan base for Smash Brothers Melee. Is it a casual game, as Nintendo calls it, or is it a competitive game, as some of the fans call it? It's at EVO, so clearly it's competitive, right? But it's not, because Nintendo said it isn't. What's the truth? Somewhere in the middle. There's high skill players and there's low skill players. And if a game has a fan base that wants to play it at a competitive level, a competitive scene will build up around it. That's how that works. That's how games operate. That's how competitive scenes work. That's how casual scenes work. if matchmaking is doing its job and there is a differentiated ranked versus unranked mode, that's how that works. However, you are trying to say that a game is either casual only or competitive only, and that there is no mixing between the two, and that if there is a mixing between the two, it should be segregated competitive mode, ranked, casual mode, unranked, no allowing of any kind of systems to operate between the two. Again, pulling out the chart, where the hierarchy is determines how that matchmaking operates. It determines if ranked is higher for skill-based, and if casual is higher for ping-based. That's how that works. In Delta Force, there is no ranked mode. It is just a system of earning rank. Like military rank versus rank, like where you stack up against other players. That's the fundamental thing here, is it is a misunderstanding issue, not an actual gameplay problem. You are lying to your viewers here by saying this is how it is. Is it malicious? This statement, yes. But a lot of the other stuff, it's just that you don't understand better.
It's supposed to be a pure, uncurated experience where you load a bunch of random people into a server and you just play the game. This is essential, and I cannot stress this enough, essential to the way Battlefield plays. Once you put skill-based...
Also, by the way, everybody keeps saying, oh, this is how Battlefield has always worked, and this is how old Call of Duty worked. And it's like, no, it's not. You are making this claim because you don't know about the chart that I just pulled out and I explained. It's because you don't understand it. You don't have that background. Is it intentional that you don't know these things? No, you don't have to know these things. Or at least you're not inherently needed to know these things to be able to enjoy the game. Does it help when you are hearing people make these claims, like I'm doing right now, where I'm hearing you make these statements and I know the truth and I'm saying what it actually is? Yes. It's not necessary, though. But all you viewers need to understand is that's how it actually works. That's how he's claiming it works. There's a difference. And it's purely based on knowledge and translation issues. It's a language and knowledge barrier.
Based matchmaking in a Battlefield style game like they did in Delta Force, you are relegated to the exact same game experience every single game.
Okay, real quick. This is where he brings up, oh, it's always the same thing. There's not a lot of maps in this game, so they're all going to play the same if you're attacking or if you're defending, where the majority of people are going to get funneled. That's called game design. If you don't change up how you play and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's going to feel the same, especially given there's a very small number of maps. Is that a problem? Yes, but that's not skill-based matchmaking's fault. You're blaming it on skill-based matchmaking, but that's not really the culprit. On top of that, there's other issues and stuff, but you're blaming the wrong person here. Or, well, technically, skill-based matchmaking is not a person, but you know what I mean.
Every game will be the exact same forever for you. And that is how my experience has been for the past 2 days playing this game on stream.
Also, I just want to say, he's about to make a claim, oh, you don't see people popping off like you would. I've explained this already, but again, watch the feed. It's not true. He proves it's not true.
There are rarely any moments where you pop off. There are rarely any moments where you have any sort of difference in the way areas play on the map. Everything just sort of feels monotone, boring. There's no variation. There's nothing to really, like, get you interested. There's no, like, massive flank one game. And then another game, you get your ass kicked. And then another game, you roll them. And then you get rolled. That isn't a thing. It just always seems to be the same thing. And that's terrible. That is just by far one of the worst things ever about skill-based matchmaking. But no, let's go over all the...
I would just like to provide this again. Once again, I paused this here for a specific reason. Pentakill. He's going to get one more kill, and then it's going to be a multi-kill. But all you need to understand is no one pops off. You individually popping off is not as impactful in Battlefield games. That's how that works. Your team has to cooperate. If your team doesn't cooperate and the other team does, you're going to get fucked up. If both teams are cooperating fairly well, or neither team is doing what it's supposed to do, the game's going to stalemate. That's how that works. Not every game is going to be the same. And that's also partially an issue, like I said again, of persistent lobbies versus non. And Delta Force is a non-persistent lobby game.
Reasons. So first of all, it basically ruins the fun for one group of players while it attempts to protect another, which I think is just fundamentally wrong. I think when you play a game, you should all just be put in the same server, and if you don't like the game, you can leave and then re-queue.
That's free-for-all. What he's referring to is the game mode free-for-all. That's what he actually wants every lobby to be. Queue in, everything's a free-for-all. It's not really how that is. Your personal skill does not matter as much in these games. And if you look at, like I said, look at the leaderboards, you'll see what I'm saying. Watch any streamer. If they check the leaderboard at the end of the match or even mid-match, you'll notice it. Play it for yourself. You'll notice it. But like I said, once again, he wants it to be a total free-for-all. There's no skill involved. Just if you're good, you're going to perform well. If you're bad, you're not. That's how he believes that used to work, and that's how he believes it should work. It has not worked that way in the last 20 years in the vast majority of games. As I said, that system's been around for nearly 20 years, if not longer. You don't know what you're talking about, but you speak with authority as though you do. Just because you're a streamer and you play these games a lot, and you play them and you know them in and out, and you understand, hey, this is the best gun in the game, and this, that, and the other thing, fine. I'm not going to dispute that you know what you're talking about in-game stuff. But I know the back end. And that's how the back end works. You don't know that, and you're stating things as though you do. I have a big problem with that.
Whatever happened with that? That solves everything right there.
Once again, no, it doesn't, because most games don't have that. You don't know that they don't have that, but they don't, and they haven't for a long time.
But some real tangible issues that you can observe while you play is, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I have been queued into multiple 120 and even 160 ping servers because of skill-based matchmaking. I'm not kidding.
Again, the sign. That's what happened to you. You got this. You got that EU server every once in a while. If the system is operating as intended from the networking side, not just the matchmaking side, the networking aspect of the matchmaking, you will get those. That happens in all the games. If it's not a persistent lobby, that's going to happen a lot. It happens more in non-persistent lobbies. In persistent lobbies, if you get that server 1 or server 2, great. But in non-persistent lobbies, you might get 4 or 5 server 1s, then get a server 2, and then you get 3 or 4 server 3s. Totally up to all those other factors, whether you get that server 3, the server 1, or the server 2. All you need to understand is, yes, I'm not saying it didn't happen to you. I'm saying that isn't skill-based matchmaking's fault. But you don't understand that. But you blame skill-based matchmaking for it, because you don't know better. And that's not your fault for not knowing better, but you speak with authority that you do not clearly have.
You can see it on stream. I queue the game, it says, can't find enough players in your skill bracket or whatever.
Doesn't say skill bracket.
Or just can't find enough players, expanding search range, then I get loaded in to a 160 ping match, and if I leave the match, I lose rank.
He's going to say, oh, rank doesn't matter to me. Again, if ranked doesn't matter, and you know it doesn't matter, and you understand how it actually works, just why do you care? Again, if it doesn't matter, stop caring, shut up about it. You know it isn't what it says that you believe it is. Rank and ranked are not one and the same. This is a translation issue.
What the fuck? Now, that isn't to say that I care about losing the rank. Like I said, ranked doesn't matter. But that's just wrong. This is like a fundamentally wrong thing. I should not be getting put in a 160 ping game and then punished after I leave that game that I shouldn't have been put in.
Again, shouldn't have been put in. If the matchmaking is working as it should be, if server 1 and server 2 are full, you will get put in server 3 if it is the best available. That's how the proper system used to work, and it's how it works now. Persistent lobby versus unpersistent, or non-persistent. Well, it doesn't matter. As I said, he's stating it as a fact, but he doesn't know why he's wrong. That's not his fault. He doesn't have to know why he's wrong, but he shouldn't speak with that authority if he is wrong.
Because of your terrible matchmaking system. And
again, this isn't skill-based matchmaking being the problem. This is just how matchmaking works in games.
Touching again about how Delta Force implemented this system, it's just really disingenuous, because why would you put something that says ranked in the game when the unranked mode is also ranked?
Again, because it's not what you think it is. It is a translation problem.
It just confuses people.
And I agree, it is very confusing. But that's a Asian market, Western market problem. Asian company, Asian developers, Asian system. Western market term doesn't mean what we have been expecting, so it's not what it is.
People don't understand it. People assume that if they unchecked ranked, then they're not going to be playing ranked.
And that is true. I agree. They should not expect to be playing ranked. But there is no ranked. You acknowledge that there is no ranked. So you know what you're saying is wrong.
But they are. So before I go any further into this rant about skill-based matchmaking, or MMR, or whatever they call it in this game, here's an extremely simple solution, right? And I think this would just pretty much fix it. Remove the MMR/skill-based matchmaking system from the unranked version of the game.
Okay, so to explain this, using another game, Street Fighter 6 is a game I play a lot of. I play primarily ranked and Battle Hub. That is a perfect example. You don't have to have played the game to understand it, but just know that there are three different things: Battle Hub, ranked, unranked. Those three are good representations of games like Call of Duty and the likes, ranked casual and lobby systems. So in games with ranked, so Street Fighter versus Call of Duty, ranked means ranked. You go in, your rank, your skill is one of the primary deciding factors. It is weighted in that chart that I showed closer to ping than lower. Ping, your skill. Very close. In unranked, ping is king. Your rank factors very low in if not entirely not at all with who you get matched with. In a server browser system, like older early 2000s games and the like, sometimes even some Battlefield games still have this system, like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. I don't know if modern Battlefields really have it that much, but it doesn't really matter, because that is more of the Battle Hub, where you go in and you pick where you play. You pick who you're going up against. You pick what server you're entering. That is the other option. No. Games should not be entirely without this system. That's dumb. It's fundamentally based on a lack of understanding of the system and the lack of concepts in your knowledge base. Is it malicious that you're saying this? No. But it is clearly representing that you do not understand it.
Plain and simple. That's all you have to do. Now, I'm going to explain some other things about what skill-based matchmaking does, and this is one of those things where you're not going to really understand it very well unless you have experienced it in the game.
Okay, again, as I explained, this is where it starts to devolve purely out of fact and into just not understanding things. He's blaming things that are not what's true. He's blaming skill-based matchmaking for things that are not skill-based matchmaking. He's making sweeping statements that are just certifiably false.
Okay, skill-based matchmaking has this effect where, let's say you're a player like myself. Okay, I'll just use myself as an example. And please, people, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to be egotistical. I'm not trying to be this way. But I play games at a fairly high level, right? As a default, right? Like, I cannot try and be better than probably 95% of people. For players like myself, or even above average players, What SBMM does is it takes you as a pretty decent player overall, even when you're not trying, and it says, "Oh, you're a better player, so we're going to force you now to try your ass off every single time you play this game. You can no longer play this game and relax. You can no longer play this game and chill. You can no longer play this game with friends that may be lower skill level because we're going to make your friends play your SBMM bracket."
He is not wrong. In any other game where it's implemented poorly, once again, as I showed, what did I show? I showed the chart where it's high skill, average player, low skill, late joins. Yes, you can. You can do that. I have done it. I know that it's true. Now, you are saying you have to try hard. No, you do not. You are not going to be able to stop yourself from playing to the best of your ability. Now, when you play to the best of your ability, you are pushing yourself to the best that you can do, to the highest performance that you are capable of. That means that you are going to put yourself in situations where you are going to go up against people who are maybe in hard to flank positions, or they are actively camping and waiting for you. But all you need to understand is this is fundamentally not true. You are saying, oh, you have to play this way. No, you don't. You can't stop yourself from playing that way. That's all you know and understand. You can't dumb yourself down. Everybody's like, oh, you can't play casual. Yes, what are you talking about? You aren't even capable of playing casual. You don't understand that you're not. What do you mean by you can't sit back and relax? What are you talking about? That's not the game. That's you. That's a mindset issue, not a game issue. The game isn't forcing you to play a certain way. If you get punished for not playing a certain way, maybe it's what you're doing. It's not the game. If you want to use a certain weapon, and you, like, let's say you want to be a sniper, well, the enemy team's not going to take kindly to you being a sniper, no, are they? When I play Team Fortress 2 and I want to play medic, I'm going to get focused down. I'm healing players. What you do impacts how the other players in the game interact with you. This concept of, oh, you can't play to just relax. No shit. That's how it's always been. What are you talking about? Like, very clearly, this isn't new. It's not. It shouldn't be this bullshit claim of, oh, you can't play casually. What are you talking about? Proof. Citation. What do you mean you physically can't play casually? That's just not true.
Meanwhile, other players that are worse get protected in this tranquil Goldilocks zone, right?
Again, tap the sign. This is how they always turn out. Okay? That's how all the lobbies have gone that I've been in. It's how I've always seen it in this game. It's how it tends to be. They're not being protected. You're absolutely not being truthful. Show in any of this, show your end of match results screen. Show the leaderboard. It will completely invalidate what you're saying. You won't, unless you're on stream, and even there you probably don't do it that often, but it completely shuts down what you're saying. And your own gameplay demonstrates that you're totally wrong.
And they never have to worry about anything. They never get to play against better players. They never improve.
That whole team was practically, one guy was staring at you, those three guys, one guy was staring directly at you, and the other two weren't even paying attention. The second you started shooting them, they were fucked. They were done. They were caught completely off guard. What are you talking about? There's no high skill and the low skill players are being protected? What are you talking about? You're the person that system should be protecting them from, right? But you're not. You absolutely destroyed those guys. You're regularly showing these clips where you perform really, really well. And having seen your stream and having played the game, I know for a fact what you're saying isn't true. And you're saying this to your viewers, and maybe some of your viewers don't even play the game. And now that you're telling them these things, they're not going to even try to play the game because they have a false understanding of how it all works.
And it's, in my opinion, it is fundamentally, completely wrong.
Also, once again, in your opinion, but I thought this was all facts. But it's not, is it?
to do that, because now it is just a completely curated experience. It's not pure. There's an algorithm getting in the way of a pure game experience. It is just fundamentally wrong, and I disagree with everything about it.
Once again, there hasn't been a pure experience free of SBMM in standard first-person shooter games for years. For almost 20 years.
In a casual game mode. If I want to play...
There is also no such thing as a casual game mode. Just because it's unranked does not mean that it's you can play like a complete brain-dead idiot. That's not a thing. You can't just turn your brain off. Like, you are going to perform to the best of your ability. If you want to use a different weapon, if that's what you're saying by, I can't play casually, or, I can't do XYZ thing, once again, that's players adapting to how you play. If you're doing these things and these things are suboptimal, you are going to get punished by other players for it. That's how that works. Every first-person shooter is fundamentally competitive. Human beings are fundamentally competitive in nature. If you don't understand this, that's a you issue. But that's not the game. Skill-based matchmaking isn't making you do anything.
Against better players, I'm going to queue ranked, bro.
Also, far less in this game. They're not making you do anything.
I'm going to play...
Once again, more players, heavier impact of whether or not skill-based is doing anything. So if there's more players in the lobby, 32, skill's going to factor in a lot less when you kill 5 or 6 of those players. In a game where it's 6 players, you kill 3 or 4 of them, the impact's much greater.
Play a competitive game with my teammates that I've won competitive tournaments with, okay? That's what I'm going to do. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody, regardless of how good they are at a video game, should be forced and relegated to a single experience where they just have to try their absolute hardest every single time they play the game just because they're decent.
Once again, nobody's forcing you to do anything. You are doing this because of a reaction to the other players shitting on you for not performing well. If you are performing to substandard for what's needed, and the enemy team is going to shit on you for it, then yeah, you're going to have to change what you do. That's how that works. Human beings are competitive in nature. Once again, this isn't the game forcing anything. This is how it's always been. That's why there's things like metas. That's why there's a best gun to use. That's why in Black Ops 6, NoobTube launching from spawn is a viable strategy. If somebody's good enough to do it, it changes the whole game. Once again, this isn't skill-based things. This is a fundamental misunderstanding, and you're blaming skill-based matchmaking. Once again, not how it works.
It's ridiculous
when implemented properly, like it is in Delta Force.
Ridiculous. And like I said previously in this video, some people are going to comment, well, why should I have to play against Enders if I can only play the game for 5 hours a week? Well, you don't, because there's this giant escape key on your keyboard in the upper left-hand corner. You can hit that, then you can hit leave game, and then queue again.
By the way, yes, you can still do that. If you leave rank turned off and you do that, there is no punishment to you. Absolutely none. Whenever I get put on when I was having some objectives that I had to do, when I had to get like mounted turret kills for my operator challenge, I would get put on a map that didn't have any mounted things, and then I would simply leave. I did that like once, and then I was like, ugh, I don't want to have to queue again. And then I just started staying in matches. But you can absolutely do that. It's totally an option. However, as I explained, once again, because the game is done a certain way, I don't want to have to play against Enders. Once again, that's somebody who's also ignorant to the system. This is how the games go. This is how they all go. All the matches in Delta Force are like that. High skill, medium skill, low skill, late joins. That's how it is.
Solves the problem instantaneously.
It does not. It creates other problems. There is no panacea. I'm sorry. It's just not a thing.
You don't have to play against me. You get a completely new experience with completely random players. So I will end this video by saying this. Delta Force, I really enjoy your game. However, I do think the implementation of this MMR matchmaking system or skill-based matchmaking is disingenuous and misleading. I do believe that you should completely remove the MMR matchmaking from the unranked version of the game, and you should clearly communicate if you're not going to remove the skill-based matchmaking from the game, that it is in both the ranked and the unranked mode.
I can agree with you there. I think that they do need to better communicate what ranked and unranked actually means, because it is not a ranked and unranked thing. You are not wrong there. The translation and language barrier there is causing a bit of an issue. However, it's purely a language based thing. It is not a actual skill based matchmaking issue. It is not what you're claiming at all.
Not telling people that they are being loaded into the same lobbies when they're queuing ranked and unranked is, again, I believe it's misleading, and I think it confuses the player base.
It does confuse the player base. However, they do kind of say it. You have to read what's being said, and most people skip it, but they do kind of explain it.
So the solution is clear if you want to take it. Remove skill-based matchmaking from the unranked casual version of the game, and perhaps change the ranked mode into something smaller player count-wise. Perhaps develop a 8v8 mode. Perhaps develop a 5v5 mode.
Battlefield doesn't have an 8v8. Battlefield doesn't have a 5v5. What are you talking about? That's stupid. I'm sorry, it's just very dumb. That's not really a thing. You want a Call of Duty style mode with Call of Duty style ranked, but it's not how that's going to work. It shouldn't do that. You want them to make a different game entirely.
I'm not entirely sure how successful that would be, but something tells me that if you remove skill-based matchmaking from the casual mode, you're worried about the ranked mode's player count. That is a completely
as they should be.
Valid concern, but
if you segregate the two, you segregate the two. You make one mode smaller and one mode bigger, and it's not sustainable. I agree that they shouldn't do it. Or I'm sorry, well, we're not agreeing on that. You think they should. I have to disagree with you. They shouldn't. And they're not going to. And I hope they don't. Because they didn't in Season 2 in the Chinese version.
I do think there are solutions to it, and I do think, given your track record with listening to the community, that if you listen to the community on this, they would reward you greatly.
They would not. It would cause lots and lots of problems, and as I said, I explained this, all you would do is cause bigger issues. Unranked, non-existent matchmaking causes its own variety of issues. Mainly that you end up with people who are getting matched with way outside their skill bracket. What you end up doing when you have no rank system at all is you end up with either lobbies that are Team B absolutely sweeps 100% of that game, Team A sweeps 100% of that game, or it's a total stalemate. And you rarely will see this solid high skill, mid skill, low skill breakdown. What you'll end up seeing is wildly inconsistent teams that are strictly based on ping and not based on skill in any capacity, and you'll end up with maybe an entire team of low skills just because of what time they're doing it. Or if it's 1 a.m., it's all the sweatiest players. It's not a good way to do it, and it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the system works. That's why you're saying these things. You don't understand. You act like you do. You act like you have the answers. The reality of it is, I have the background to tell you, no, that's not a solution. You think it is, and everybody in these communities, these big name streamers and stuff, keep saying, oh, this is how you fix it. This is how you fix this game. This is how COD is broken. This is how you fix it. No, COD is broken with EOMM. That's an entirely different issue. SBMM has been in games since way long ago, and it is not a good time to remove it now. It never was a good time to remove it. It is good that it's here. I'm sorry you don't understand that. I hope this video has explained this to you.
So definitely let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section down below.
I'll do you one better. I made a whole video.
If you enjoy the content, if you want to follow Delta Force, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video, and come by the streams, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have been absolutely out of this world, life-changing levels of support on the streams. A couple days in a row now, I have averaged over 1,100 viewers on my Twitch channel, which is just, I mean, I can't even put it into words how incredible that is, starting from literally 0 viewers in Battlefield 1 all the way back in 2018. So thank you guys so much for that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Okay, and then the rest of that's just non-existent gaming. So once again, to cover this one last time, that's how the hierarchy works. That's how it has worked for years. It does not need changing. This is the server system for those top two parts of the hierarchy, your ping and your location based on server capacity. That's how the lobbies break down when that system is implemented properly. There is no good reason to remove it. If you believe there is, you are wrong, but it's probably because you don't understand why you're wrong. The developers are absolutely right, and I think that you are speaking with authority that you just do not have, because you do not have the background to say, oh, this is how this works, this is why this works, this is how it should be. I'm sorry, you're just wrong. It's just how it is. And if you believe that you're right, I feel bad for you, because you're wrong, and people like me are going to call you out on it. And we're going to get drowned out by other people who believe what you're saying. They take you as an authority figure. You have a big channel. You have a lot of people who are tuning into your streams. Please do better about what you say. In fact, I hope you watch my video. I've had other big name people who watch my shit when I call them out. I hope you watch this. I hope you learn something. And I hope you take that going forward as an understanding of the reality of things. Now, I'm glad that you enjoy the game. I really am. However, it's obvious that you don't follow this game to the same extent that I do, where I know what's going on in the Chinese version, I know what's coming, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever, who cares? I think it's not great, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And I've been following this for a long time, since back when it was first named Hawk Ops, and it's not even named that anymore. I wish it stayed named Hawk Ops. That's super fucking cool. I thought the name was awesome. It's not anymore, and I still call it Delta Force Hawk Ops, but it's not. All that matters is, come on, man, learn something. Please, YouTube algorithm, show this man this video. I know it's a long one, but ooh, please teach him. Please spread the word about what this system actually is, so I can not have to explain this over and over again. Anyway, das vidanya, arrivederci. I'm going to bed.